The A's take on the Astros, 2:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. Houston's minus 180 with the total at 9 runs. And if you like Oakland and an upset on the road here, they're plus $1.55 for some money line cash. They're also minus 130 catching the 1.5 on the run line. Frankie Montas on the mound for Oakland, Lance McCullers for Houston. We're 4-0 in our last 4 NBA tier package picks on my Patreon website. And the good news is we have another NBA tier package pick going off here this evening. We're also hitting at 70% in our last 10 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. We also have another board member tier package pick going off here this evening. We currently have over 875 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube free picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, the link for that site is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Lance McCullers is 6-1 thus far in the season, 2.97 ERA and a 1.22 WHIP. The righties punched out 81 batters in just over 72 innings. First place Astros are actually 5.5 games ahead of Oakland in the standings. They're currently 21 games above 500. The Houston pitching staff is in the top 5 in fewest hits allowed per contest. They also allowed just 3.9 runs a game. The Astros have gone 28-16 straight up at Minute Maid Park. They're taking on an Oakland club who lost their last 3 straight, and they also dropped 5 out of their last 6. This Oakland lineup's in the bottom 10 in hits on average per contest. They're averaging less than 7.7 hits a game. Meanwhile, defensively, the A's are in the bottom 10 in hits allowed. Frankie Montas has suffered 7 losses already on the season, along with a 4.63 ERA and a 1.34 WHIP. When it comes to the total on this one, Oakland's seen 67% of their divisional games get over the posted number. Meanwhile, Houston's gone 24-13 to the over against the AL West themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros minus 180 and the over 9 runs. Next game, Rockies, D-backs, 3:40 p.m. East. The Arizona Diamondbacks are minus 135, totals 9.5 juice to the over. Jacob Faria for the D-backs, Chichi Gonzalez for Colorado. Now, the Rockies have gotten the W in 6 out of their last 9 ball games. Top 10 in the majors in fewest strikeouts at the plate. Ryan McMahon's hit 16 homers and knocked in 46. Meanwhile, Raimel Tapia is hitting 289 at the plate, which is in the top 25 in the league in that category. Now, they're taking on a last-place Diamondbacks club who has the fewest wins in Major League Baseball. Arizona's currently 25-63 overall for the season. And that's good for a win percentage of just .284. And in addition to winning only 35% of their home games, Arizona also ranks dead last in both runs and hits allowed. Jacob Faria comes into today's start with very limited action. He's got a 5.25 ERA in just 12 innings of work. When it comes to the total on this one, the Rockies are 9-1 to the under in their last 10 outings. They've also gone 22-17 to the under in their contests on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Colorado Rockies plus 1.5 and the under 9.5 runs. Next ball game, Yankees, Mariners, 4:10 p.m. East. The New York Yankees are minus 140, totals 8.5. Jordan Montgomery for New York, Logan Gilbert for Seattle. Now, Gilbert struck out 45 batters in just over 41 innings pitched. The righty's also got himself a 1.10 WHIP. The Mariners have won 4 out of their last 7, and they tend to play their best baseball at T-Mobile Park. Seattle's 26-19 on their home field. They're taking on a Yankees club who successfully cashed in on the run line in just 17 out of 40 road games, and that's good for just 42% in that particular category. This Yankees lineup is also in the bottom 10 in strikeouts at the plate. Jordan Montgomery comes into today's contest with just 3 wins on the season and a 4.17 ERA. When it comes to the total on this one, New York's 21-19 to the under when they travel. Meanwhile, the Mariners have gone 26-19 to the under as the home team. I'm going to lean toward The Seattle Mariners plus 1.5, and the under 8.5 runs. Next matchup, Blue Jays, Orioles, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Toronto Blue Jays are minus 215, numbers 10.5 juice to the over. Alek Manoah for Toronto, Keegan Akin for Baltimore. Akin's 0-4 with a 7.46 ERA and a 1.68 whip. The last place Orioles have the fewest wins in the American League right now. Just 28-58 overall for the season, 30 games under 500 already. And in addition to winning just 32% of their games at Camden Yards, the O's are dead last in the league in runs allowed at home. They're taking on a Toronto club who simply pounds the baseball. They're in the top 3 in scoring, top 3 in hits. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is leading the league in batting average, RBI, and OPS. The Sluggers batting .341 with 73 ribbies and an OPS of 1.118. Vlad's also hit 28 home runs thus far in the season. Meanwhile, Marcus Semien, he's hit 21 home runs, knocked in 54. The Blue Jays are 13-7 against the number in their divisional road games. They also have Alek Manoah on the bump here today, who's 2-0 with a 2.70 ERA and a 1.01 whip. Now, total-wise, the Blue Jays actually saw 60% of their road games against the AL East stay under the line. And when it comes to the O's in this one, I just don't think they can score enough to help put this one over. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Blue Jays minus 1.5 and the under 10.5. Next ball game, Royals, Indians, 7:10 p.m. East. The Cleveland Indians are minus 135, totals 9. Zach Plesac for Cleveland, Danny Duffy for Kansas City. Despite some fairly good numbers out of Duffy, he does come into today's contest with a very average 1.23 whip. The Royals have also lost 7 out of their last 10, and they easily play their worst baseball on the road. Out of the Royals' 43 road games, they've gotten the W only 15 times, and that's good for just 34% in that particular category. This Kansas City lineup is in the bottom 3 in road scoring, averaging just 3.5 runs per contest when they travel. They're taking on a Cleveland club who still has a winning home record despite their current skid. Now, this Cleveland pitching staff, they're also in the top 10 in striking batters out. Zach Plesac, he's 4-3 on the season with a 1.02 whip. When it comes to the number in this one, the Indians went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings, 5-2 to the over in their last 7 at home. Meanwhile, 3 out of the Royals' last 4 road games got over the number themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Cleveland Indians minus 135 in the over 9 runs. Next ball game, it is going to be Pirates versus the Mets, 7:10 Eastern start time. The New York Mets are minus 190, total 7.5 juice to the over. Taijuan Walker for New York, JT Brubaker for Pittsburgh. Brubaker's just 4-8 on the season with a 4.09 ERA. The last place Pirates have the second fewest wins in the National League, and they find themselves 22 games below 500. Now, the Buccos have also gotten the W in just 13 out of 42 road games. That's good for only 30% in that particular category. The Pirates are currently dead last in scoring on average per contest. Now, they're taking on a Mets club who plays their best baseball at home. They're 26-12 straight up in Flushing, Queens. Now, the Mets also lead the majors in fewest runs and hits allowed per game. New York's giving up just 2.2 runs a game at Citi Field. Taijuan Walker, he's 7-3 on the season with a 2.44 ERA and a 1.01 whip. The righties also struck out 87 batters in just 85 innings of work. Now, total-wise, the Mets are 25-9 to the under on their home field against National League competition. Meanwhile, the Pirates saw their last 3 straight road games stay under the number themselves. Pittsburgh's also 22-12 to the under against National League competition on the road. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets minus 1.5 and the under 7.5 in the tight window. Next ball game, it is going to be Phillies versus the Cubs, 8:05 Eastern first pitch. The Chicago Cubs are minus $1.15, total 7.5. Albert Alzolay for the Cubs. Zach Eflin for the Phils. Now, Eflin's just 3-6 on the season, 4.13 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP. The Phillies have won just 17 out of 44 on the road, and they rank in the bottom 10 in road hits allowed. Their lineup's also in the bottom 10 in strikeouts at the plate. They're taking on a Chicago club who's 27-15 straight up at Wrigley Field. And they rank in the top 10 in fewest runs allowed on their home field as well. Albert Alzolay comes into today's contest with an impressive 1.08 WHIP. He also struck out 76 batters in just over 72 innings of work. When it comes to the total in this one, Chicago's last 3 straight home games got over the number. 60% to the over in their last 10 outings at any location. Meanwhile, the Phillies went 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. 4 to the over in their last 5 away from home. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs minus 115 in the over 7.5. Next ball game, Reds Brewers, 8:10 p.m. East. The Milwaukee Brewers are minus $1.15, numbers 8.5. Adrian Hauser for Milwaukee, Tyler Mahle for Cincinnati. Despite some pretty good numbers here recently out of Tyler Mahle, the Reds are playing just .500 baseball on the road against National League competition. They're also in the bottom 10 in runs allowed per contest, and they're walking 4.1 batters a game when they travel. They're taking on a first-place Milwaukee club who won 7 out of their last 10. They also currently lead the majors in striking batters out. They're actually striking out 10.8 batters a game on their home field, and they're also holding their opponents to only 6.9 hits a game. Adrian Hauser comes into today's contest with a 3.94 ERA. When it comes to the number in this one, Milwaukee's 10-7 to the under in their divisional games at home. Meanwhile, the Reds on the other side of things, they're 9-7 to the under in their divisional games on the road. Give me the Milwaukee Brewers minus 115 in the under 8.5. Next contest, Tigers versus the Twins, 8:10 Eastern Standard Time. The Minnesota Twins are minus 130, totals 9.5. Jay Happ for the Twins, Tarek Skubal for Detroit. Now, Skubal's got 100 strikeouts thus far in the season. Detroit's also got the W in 7 out of their last 10 ball games. This Detroit pitching staff is in the top 10 in fewest walks allowed away from home. They're taking on a last-place Twins club who's 15 games below 500. And they also got the W in just 18 out of 43 home games. Minnesota's in the bottom 3 in runs allowed at home. Bottom 3 in hits allowed as well. Jay Happ comes into today's contest with a 6.09 ERA and a 1.50 WHIP. When it comes to the total in this one, Minnesota's 11-4 to the over in their divisional home games. And they're also 27-16 to the over in all of their games at Target Field. Meanwhile, the Tigers saw their last 6 straight road games all get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Detroit Tigers plus $1.10 and the over 9.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. It is going to be Washington versus San Diego, 9:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The San Diego Padres are minus 145, total 7. Yu Darvish for the Pods, Max Scherzer for Washington. Scherzer's 7-4 on this season, 127 strikeouts and a .85 WHIP. The righty's also got himself a 2.10 ERA. The Nationals, they've won 2 out of their last 3, with both of those victories coming against San Diego. Their lineup's in the top 10 in road scoring, top 3 in road hits. They're taking on a Padres club who lost 5 out of their last 7 themselves. And they also rank in the bottom half of the league in home scoring. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, the Pods' last 4 straight home games all got over the number. Meanwhile, the Nats went 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Washington Nationals plus 1.5 in the over 7 runs. Of that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Houston minus 180 over 9 runs. Colorado plus 1.5 under 9.5. Seattle plus 1.5 under 8.5 runs. Toronto minus 1.5, under 10.5. Cleveland minus 135, over 9 runs. New York Mets minus 1.5, under 7.5. Chicago Cubs minus $1.15, over 7.5 runs. Milwaukee minus $1.15, under 8.5. Detroit plus $1.10, over 9.5 runs. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 4-0 in our last 4 NBA tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 70% in our last 10 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Washington Nationals plus 1.5 and the over 7 runs of that, guys. Now it's time for some shout outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Chris Sharbo, Double Nintendo, Moneyball 365, Carlin Peterson, Mr. Do Right. Also want to give a shout out to the South Plainfield Striker, Paul B., Stephen Lewis, Kevin Taylor, and last but certainly, you heading out?
Yeah, I'm going to work.
Okay.
Love you.
This last guy is just waiting to hear his name called.
Ooh.
I was literally on the last guy. I was next and final guy for the show.
I'm sorry.
I'm making him wait.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. The anticipation
He's gonna love it.
is riveting.
Yeah, when you say
And last, do you want to hear what the last guy is?
Yes, I do.
And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my man, Darrell86. Darrell86 gets the final shout out. All right, guys, love you. That is going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. Now, if you guys do end up getting a package here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of July. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.